Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and welcome. My name is Rabbi Yaakov Glasser, and I have the great privilege of serving as the David Mitzner Dean of Yeshiva University's Center for the Jewish Future. One of the central values that defines the Yeshiva University community is our sense of connectedness to the broader Jewish people, and how deeply enriched we are through appreciating the uniqueness of every individual Jew. This is what Rabbi Dr. Berman refers to as Torat Adam, the wisdom and the growth that emanates from appreciating the distinctiveness of others. With our special guest this morning, we have a profound opportunity to connect not only to a unique Jewish leader, but through him to an entire community, to the Jews of Iran. Having just celebrated the holiday of Purim and today being the observed day of Shushan Purim, we come together to demonstrate that indeed we are not mifuzar or mifurad, we are not scattered and dispersed, but we are one people with a shared history and with a deep commitment to the values of our tradition. That we can sit together, two communities, in conversation with each other, with common values and with common ideals, with a shared history and with a sacred bond. Our program today features our own renowned Rabbi Dr. Jacob J. Schacter, University Professor of Jewish History and Jewish Thought here at Yeshiva University, a noted historian and an accomplished rabbinic scholar and leader, together with Arash Abaie, the visiting lecturer at the University of Religions and Denominations in Tehran, Iran, a leader in the Jewish community of Tehran. Following our program this morning at 10:50, for those who received an invitation to participate in the President's Giving Society program, you could feel free to click on the link in that invitation, and the program will continue with an exclusive discussion together with Rabbi Berman. It is indeed a great privilege and a great honor to host today's program. I want to thank Rabbi Winston for all of his hard work in putting the program together, and to welcome the Yeshiva University community to this extraordinary conversation. Rabbi Schacter.
Good morning, everybody. Arash, good afternoon. Welcome to all of you who are joining us. I understand there are many, many people who have signed on to be with us this morning. I want to thank Rabbi Glasser for all of your leadership. I want to thank Rabbi Winston for all of the technical leadership that you have engaged in to help us to today. And in particular, of course, I want to thank my friend for many, many years, Mr. Arash Abaie. I want to introduce Mr. Abaie to you, to our audience, and then we will engage in a series of questions and answers. We will have a conversation about the Jewish life in Iran in general, and focusing a little bit also on the holiday of Purim. Arash Abaie, as you heard, is visiting lecturer in Judaism at the University of Religions and Denominations. By profession, he is a civil engineer, a bachelor and a master's of science in civil engineering from University in Tehran, and he spends an enormous amount of time as a leader of the Tehran Jewish community. He is a teacher of Judaism in the high schools for close to 30 years. He is a chazan, a religious preacher. He is a editor-in-chief of a Jewish magazine in Tehran, editor of Persian Hebrew Dictionary, author of a number of books on Judaism, author of weekly interpretations of Torah, editor of Hebrew Persian calendar, and very much involved in the community. Arash, are you there?
Rabbi Schacter, we seem to have lost the connection with Arash just temporarily. If everyone could just bear with us for one moment. If there are any other accomplishments you'd like to share about him, Rabbi Schacter. But otherwise,
I'll be happy to tell a story of how I met him. Can I continue until
Beautiful, and we'll let him know. Beautiful. He's on. We're in touch with him, and as it's Hashem, we'll.
Okay, fine. So this is a complicated procedure, and we're trying to do the best that we can. So let me take a moment and I'll share with you. I met Arash in 2003 in Glomsta, Sweden, under the auspices of an organization called the Memorial Foundation for Jewish Culture. This is an organization that brings together young Jewish leaders from across the world. And my wife, Yocheved, and I were invited to participate a number of times in these conferences. We were in Glomsta, Sweden. There is a campsite that is a summer retreat for the Stockholm, Sweden Jewish community on the banks of the Black Sea. And about 50 young men and women from literally all over the world came together. And we met Arash. And there were two other young, a man and a woman who also came from Tehran. It was fascinating to meet him and to meet his colleagues from Tehran. And we engaged in a lot of really fascinating and interesting conversations. What struck me, and the reason why I kept up with Arash, was I would be sitting and teaching a smaller group, maybe of 10, 15 young men and women, most of whom with relatively little background in Jewish life and in Jewish texts. And I wanted them to see what a Gemara looked like. So I copied the page of a Gemara and we studied a little bit. We went through various topics. And every time the Gemara quotes a pasuk, as I'm sure many of you know, the Gemara doesn't always conclude the pasuk. Sometimes it's a vagomer, etc. And every single pasuk that we encountered, Arash, who was sitting next to me, he was able to finish the pasuk. And I'm not talking about a pasuk like Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elo, and then he finished the pasuk, but some pasuk somewhere in Habakkuk, some pasuk in Micha. His knowledge of Tanakh was astounding. And he told me that he went to Schacter in Tehran and he learned and he knows and he remembers. Because Yeshiva University is so interested in what's going on all over the world, as Rabbi Glasser mentioned, how important it is for us to deeply care about and engage Jews all over the world, I thought it would be very worthwhile if we could have a conversation with Arash to share a little bit about his community and about his family, and in particular about the holiday of Purim, being, as you heard today, is Shushan Purim. And I am waiting and hope that Arash will be able to get back online so that we'll be able to continue our conversation. Rabbi Glasser, any progress?
Yes, he's trying to get in. He's having some technical difficulties on his end, and we're working on it very hard. If we could ask everyone to just please bear with us for a moment. We're just trying to work through the challenge. I apologize to everyone. Here we go. I think we.
Yes, Arash, I see you now. Can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you. Do you hear me?
Yes, I do. Thank you. Welcome back. So I just want to summarize that I introduced you and I told our audience that your profession is civil engineering and you have been very, very much involved in many different ways in the Jewish community in Tehran, that I met you in Glomsta, Sweden in 2003, and that you completed every single pasuk that the Gemara quoted. The Gemara quoted half a pasuk, you completed the pasuk. Your knowledge of Bible, of Hebrew Bible, is astounding. I was very much impressed. And because Yeshiva University is very much interested in engaging Jews all over the world, and I knew of our connection, I reached out to you, and you were very gracious in responding and agreeing to have this conversation. So I'd like to begin by asking you, Arash, to share with us a little bit about your own background, your own family background, your Jewish education, how long has your family been in Iran? Something about yourself personally.
Yes. I was born in Tehran, and my parents are both from Iran, in some other cities, and they are from religious families. You know, in Iranian people are not like other Jews of the other parts of the world who are maybe most of them are immigrants from their parents or grandparents. In Iran, when you ask people about their parents and their background, maybe all of their parents and grandparents and grandparents, all of them, all the generations are from Iran. They have been in Iran, not immigrated from any other parts. So it is very normal that all of them have been in Iran for centuries or maybe for 1,000 years. So my parents are from Iran, and they are both religious. I experienced Shabbat and Jewish festival during my childhood because of their gatherings. I spent my primary school in a Jewish school in Tehran, and my high school was in public school with other Iranian Muslims. I am a civil engineer, and also I have a master in religion and mysticism. My Jewish education began in Jewish schools and synagogues in Tehran, including primary Hebrew language only for reading and translating, Torah reading and translating prayers and halacha. As I was interested in synagogue activities after my bar mitzvah, I began to be a shaliach sibur and a Torah reader in synagogues. And then when I was about 20, I was invited to give lectures in our synagogue. I began to teach Judaism for students in the Jewish schools. About 25 years ago, when in Iran interreligious dialogue began, as President Khatami began the idea of dialogue among civilizations, a branch of it was interreligious dialogue, and the sessions began in Iran among Muslims and other religions, especially Zoroastrians, Christians, and the Jews. And then, as I was advisor to Tehran Jewish Committee, I took part in sessions of introduction and discussion about Judaism and common points between Judaism and other religions. Also, I was editor-in-chief of Iranian Jewish magazine for about 5 years. Also, still I am cooperating with it. Every issue I have an article or editing articles. During these years, I had many lectures and courses about Judaism in universities of Iran. Also, I have revised many books in Persian about Judaism. As the people know me, they have my opinion about the correctness of the books about Judaism. Also, I have been advisor for many theses in universities which are about Judaism. Also, I have been in a group of editoring the Persian to Hebrew dictionary that was published maybe 5 years ago. And I published weekly parachutes for 3 years. The flyers that we distributed in the synagogue. I translated from English and distributed for people in the synagogue. So I was very active to discussion and teaching of Judaism in these 2 or 3 decades.
That sounds extremely impressive, Arash. On behalf of your own community and on behalf of Jews all over the world, we are so grateful to you for all the work that you do to spread the importance of Judaism and the value of Judaism and the substance of Judaism. Could you elaborate a little bit more about the interfaith work that you're doing, the relationship between Jews and Muslims? You went to a high school, a public high school, you interacted with Muslims, you do a lot of interfaith work, you represent Judaism in a group that has Zoroastrians, Christians, and Muslims. What's the relationship like between Muslims and Jews in Iran today?
Iranian Jews, we can say that they are mostly Iranian and then they are Jews. Maybe we are talking about the people who are Iranian and their religion is Judaism. They are very similar and familiar together. The culture is the same and everything is the same. Even many their customs are like Muslim during these long history of coexistence. But there are some conflicts. The first is that at the same time that Islam and Judaism are very, very close together, at the same time there are some conflicts against Judaism in the Islamic books. So there have been always similarities beside some conflicts and difference. And also after Islamic Revolution in 1979, another problem comes among this conflict, and this was Israel and Zionism. That was a political problem. And also after Islamic Revolution, the whole community of Iranian people and the whole situation of the country was more and more religious. The television, the media, the books, even the walls of the streets of the cities, all of them were propaganda for religion. And the Jews were in a new condition that they should show that they are religious, they are respect their religion, because in Islam, they respect those people who respect their religion, even they are not Muslim. And because the name of Christian and Jews are mentioned in Quran and Islamic teachings, they respect if a Jew is more religious. They respect if a Jew prays. They respect a Jew if he fasts. They want to be. They want to find the similarities between Islam and Jews and Judaism, and if they have in common things in common, there would be a peace. There would be a peaceful coexistence. So Jews of Iran, because of all of this propaganda and the conditions, began to be even more religious than before Islamic Revolution. So they were more observant. They were more coming to synagogues for prayer or Jewish education. This was the situation. Also, after that event that I told you, that the situation of interreligious dialogue formed in Iran, the Jews tried to find the common things between Judaism and Islam. So many of the people forced to investigate even in Judaism to find what we have in that we can introduce it to the larger community, to the major community, that show that we are similar to root. We have the main concepts like monotheism, prophecy, the world to come, even the Mashiach, the savior who will come at the end of the history. There is the same concept in Shiite Islam, that they are waiting for a savior who will come. And we insist and persist in these common things, and these make us a peaceful coexistence for us. Not only in academic sessions, I am not only talking about the university, even in the market, in the work life, they have so many conversations with Muslims. They ask the Jewish man, why are you closed in Saturday? Saturday in Iran is the first day of the week and the first day of the work time, and they are closed, many of the Jews. And he tries to explain and make everything similar to for Muslims. For Muslims, the Friday is the holiday to pray, to special pray. They want to make it similar. Or the Muslim ask, why don't you eat with me, my meat or my food? And as the Muslim have the same ritual for slaughters and something like Schacter for us. They don't eat Christian foods or not slaughtered foods, or for example, pork for them is forbidden. The Jews feels that he has something in common with the Muslim. And when he explained his halacha and rituals and religious laws, the Muslim rely on him. He says that, okay, he is talking with another religion, but the same. So this has been something interreligious dialogue out of the academic situation in the marketplace, in the streets, and in the shops and everywhere. So this has been something between Jews and Muslims during the years. Also, there have been so many animosities, but the Jews find how to solve it, how to make it peaceful to continue their life.
Arash, I just want to highlight something that you said now that I think is extraordinarily interesting to our audience. And that is that instead of Islam making it difficult for Jews to observe their religion, Islam, in fact, encourages Jews to become even more affiliated with and committed to religion. And that's something that I think we didn't know about, and is of great interest, that the coming of the Islamic Revolution and its emphasis on religion spurred Jews internally to become more religious and to become more committed and to come back to the synagogue or start coming to the synagogue. I remember, Arash, when we met, it was 18 years ago in Sweden. I remember I was so taken by you and by your colleagues. I think I asked you, so how long is your family living in Iran? And my recollection is you said to me, Miyamei Mordechai ve'Esther, which is a very long time. And you just mentioned now that your family's been there for a long time. Could you share with us a little bit about the history of the Jews in Iran and leading up to, of course, and culminating today? But what's some of the background, centuries and centuries? What's unique about Iranian Jewish history? What's different about it? What could you share with us about the general background?
Well, you know, we all know about the Judaism in Iran from two dates, which all of them are said in the Tanakh, in the Old Testament. The first is that from the fall of the northern kingdom of Israel, about 2,700 years ago, when Assyrian kingdom defeated them. And it is said in the books of Nevi'im that the Jewish people were refugees and were taken to Pars and Mad, Paras Umadai in Hebrew. And Paras Umadai were ancient Persia. But we don't know about them. There were 10 tribes of Jews who were lost. But we believe, or many people believe, that they came to Iran, which was Paras Umadai. It was 200 years before destruction of the first temple. But the more precise date is that from destruction of the first temple, Beit HaMikdash Rishon, the people came to Babylon. And Babylon in those days, today it is in Iraq, but in those days was belonging to ancient Persia. And when King Cyrus liberated Jews and led them to return to Jerusalem to reconstruct the second temple, many of the Jews since then decide to remain and even migrate to other parts of Iran. So we are certain that both either 2,700 years ago or 2,500 years ago is the date that Jews were settled in Iran and went to other parts of Iran from them. From then, after Cyrus' kingdom, that was very good for Jews, and after some other kings, The main religion in Iran was Zoroastrian, and there was some conflicts with Jews and the main religion, as maybe you all have remember the Mishnah chapter 2, Bam Madlikim, we read it, and in a verse it said that Ham Chabe'et Haner mipnei shehu mitgarem mipnei goyim, mipnei listim. That goyim means Zoroastrians who didn't let Jews, Iranian Jews, to fire the candle for Erev Shabbat. It shows that there were some conflicts between the main religion of Iran, that was Zoroastrian, and Jews. It was up and down during the long history of the Jews of Iran until the time that Islam came to Iran, and the main religion converted from Zoroastrian to Islam. And again, Jews were minorities. But there was an advantage that Jews called Ahl Zimmeh. Ahl Zimmeh means the people of the book. In Quran, the non-Muslims divided to two parts: those who don't believe in God and those who believe in God, which are Jews and Christians. They call them Ahl Kitab, means the people of the book, who have the divine book, which is Torah and the Gospel. So the people of the book, who were Jews among them, could pay something, a tax called jizya. They could pay jizya, or tax, or religious tax, to the Muslim government and be safe. So the Jews were inferior but protected citizens under the Arabic and Islamic government. But again, there were so many conflicts and even massacres under the government of the Muslims. About 500 years ago, the religion was converted to Shiite Muslim Islam, a sect of Islam, and again everything changed for Jews, and again conflicts and coexistence and up and down. It was continued until the 19th century. In 1906, that constitution, it called constitutional revolution. For the first time in Iran, the state-nation structure formed, that Jews came from under the non-civilian people and non-Muslim, and they became civilian and have the right to, according to the law, according to the constitution, first constitution, the first parliament in Iran formed, and Jews, like Christian and Zoroastrian, had representative in that parliament. And from that time, it began to everything be legalized, and the Jews could have properties in cities, they could be in army, they could be in schools, in public schools, and everything began to be better for Jews, and they be like other Iranian civilians. After Islamic Revolution, everything changed, but in new constitution, in new Islamic constitution, again, Judaism recognized as a divine religion, and they had the right to live and have a representative in the parliament, and they were free, according to the constitution, to do their religious affairs. So despite the vast migration from Iran, that before revolution there was about 100,000 Jews, and today, also 40 years after the revolution, the number, the population is 10,000. But the Jews know how to continue living, how to coexist, and despite of the severe Islamic laws and the religious situation of the country, they know how to cooperate and how to continue living with their Muslim majority people.
Yes.
Yeah.
You mentioned that there are 10,000 Jews today in Iran. How many are in Tehran and how many elsewhere?
Half of them are in Tehran, in capital city, and the other are in the major cities like Shiraz and Isfahan. They are so large that they have their communities, schools, and Jewish committees. In other cities, because of the lack of people, maybe they don't have, they have synagogues, but they don't have minyan or they don't have schools or committees. But in the main cities, still they have their communities and societies very well.
So tell us a little bit, Arash, about the structure of the Jewish community. Let's focus on Tehran, where you live, where you are a leader. Tell us about the synagogues, schools. Are there any kosher restaurants, mikveh, cemeteries, those institutions that make up Jewish life? What's it like today?
Well, the Jewish society in Tehran has almost all the elements of a Jewish, standard Jewish community. Even I can say that better than those before, before even revolution. We have three main centers. The first is Tehran Jewish Committee, which is responsible for social activities. We have a chief rabbi and a bet din who are responsible for religious affairs, and we have a representative in the parliament, every 4 years elected, and he is responsible for political activities. Also, we have many organizations for youth, for women, for cultural affairs. We have 4 Jewish schools. Before revolution, it was more than 10, but today it is 4 Jewish schools. However, not all the Jewish students are forced to go to Jewish schools. They can go to public schools with Muslim students, but they can pass the religious courses in Tehran Jewish Community. Because after Islamic Revolution, Jewish education is a must and should be like other courses in the schools, from primary until the high school. But for the non-Muslim, they can pass their special books. For example, Jewish has Jewish books approved by the Ministry of Education, but they should pass it and should have official courses about it. So we have 4 Jewish schools. We have kindergarten, Jewish kindergartens. We have Jewish library. We have our cemetery, and even we have our special centers for bakery of masa for Pesach, for Passover. We have our butchery, or we have a part of the slaughtering area of Muslim. For example, every Monday for 2 or 3 hours, they let the Jewish shochatim to enter and have their slaughters and shechitas and have their meat or every kosher. We have about, I think, 5 kosher restaurants. We have our butcheries and everything. Even we produce newly in this recent years, even we produce our talits and sisits, except tefillin that we can't produce it. We can produce everything we want. We publish our sidurs with Persian translation, that with one of them I cooperated to translate it. We publish our Torahs, printed Torahs with Persian translation. We can correct our Torah scrolls, Sefer Torahs, or there are some sophers who write mezuzahs. We correct our Megillat Esther, and we can do everything we need in our Jewish community.
You mentioned that there are 4 Jewish schools now. Are they from kindergarten through high school? What ages are they? And how many students are there in these schools?
Kindergarten in Iranian education system is separated from school. So they are from primary to high school. But after Islamic Revolution, as the boys and girls should be separated from the primary, so the schools are separated. We have two schools for girls and two schools for boys. But the students are not many because of the quality of the schools. Entering the university in Iran is very important, and the quality of the school, public schools, some of them, the private schools are very high. So many people prefer to send their children to public schools and only pass to the Jewish teaching in the Tehran Jewish community. So no, they have no many students nowadays in the Jewish schools, but they are active and continue to their activity.
And those who go to public school, you mentioned get Jewish education through the Tehran Jewish Committee. Yes. What is that education like? Is that once a week for a few hours? What's the nature of the supplemental Jewish education not in the Jewish schools?
Well, as I told, according to the new system of education after Islamic Revolution, there should be 2 or 4 hours a week for religious studies. And in public schools, Jewish students can in Iran, the closed day in Iran, they go to special classes held by a Jewish committee and pass the Jewish education. Jewish education officially is only teaches by the books. It is not freely everything we want to teach in the schools. We have some Persian books. I also cooperated to edit some of them. There are history, there are halakha, there are some selected texts from the Tanakh in Persian. They learn it even in Jewish school is the same education. The education is the same, and also there are some common, we can say, books. So every Jewish student passes 2 religious books in every grade. One is Jewish book that belongs only to Judaism, and the second is the common book, which is common in all divine religions. The common things like prophecy and monotheism and ethics are written in that by the Ministry of Education, and he or she should pass both 2 books in every grade.
So the government requires that Jewish students study Judaism at least somewhat as a religion, correct?
Yes, yes, because in Iran, religious teaching is a must.
I understand.
Either you should pass Islam or the accepted religion. There are only 3 religions accepted in the constitution: Zoroastrian, Christian, and Judaism. No other religion.
I see. Arash, we could continue this conversation for a long time. We have just a few minutes left. So I would like to turn our attention to the holiday of Purim, which is obviously very central to you and to your community. Do you have any special Purim customs, any traditions that you have about Purim, the kever of Mordechai and Esther? How far is that? Do you go to visit? Is that an important site? Tell us a little bit about what Purim is like in Tehran for the Jewish community.
Well, for Jewish communities, the Purim however, is somehow closer to their minds because the tomb of Esther and Mordechai are located in Iran. But really, it is not so much different from other Jewish holidays or festivals. For example, like Sukkot or Pesach, all are the same. So Purim is something like that. Most of people used to go in that event. In all times of the year, they used to go to pilgrimage and visit the sites. But especially in Purim, many of the Jews from Tehran or other Jewish cities, they have privately or by bus or tours, they gather in the Hamadan, in the tomb of Esther and Mordechai, and they attend the Qiyat Megillah, they're reading the book of Esther there, both night and in the morning, because there are a synagogue in that tomb, special. But in this year and last year, because of the pandemic and the coronavirus, no one allowed to go to there. And 1 year, because of some conflicts and political events, they stopped to go there. But all years, many people go there to make Purim there. The custom in Iran, there is no special custom. There is something like sweets, or they call it halwa. It is a mixture of flour and dates. They bake it with some other thing I don't know, but make a special sweetie for that event. But there is no special custom, and not so beverages. It is not the custom in Iran, and no masks, nothing. It is not like other parts of the world. It's only a religious program like Hanukkah, like Pesach, and like other Jewish events, not specially for Iranians.
How far is the kever of Mordechai and Esther from Tehran?
From Tehran, it takes about by automobile about 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours. So it is somehow far from Tehran, but people used to go there. And also in this time, it is because it is in a mountain city, it is somehow cold. So it is not the time of travel for Iranian people to go there, but only for pilgrimage they go. Yeah.
I read that in 2008, the kever of Mordechai and Esther and Hamadan was designated a national heritage site by the Iranian government. Is that correct? And what does that tell us then about the nature of the relationship between the Iranian government and the Jewish community?
Yes, however, it is not because of the Judaism. Every historical monument or building is protected by an organization in Iran, something like UNESCO in United Nations. It is a branch of it that protect historical buildings, and as this tomb is very historical, it was established as a historical heritage of Iranian people. And it is good for us because no one can go and maybe, make it some destruction in it. Also, many other sites, Jewish sites in Iran was established as a historical heritage. A synagogue in Tehran, which has 100 years old, was established. A cemetery of Jews near the Tehran, it's called Gilead or Gilad, which is a historical cemetery, was also established. And it is a custom. Some synagogues in Yazd and Isfahan, which are in architectural and historical monuments, also they established as a historical heritage of Iran. And no one can anywhere disrupt it because of this protection.
Right, it's protected. Arash, I want to thank you very, very much. Our time now has come to a close. It's been a great, great honor to engage with you and to speak with you. We're inspired, incredibly inspired by the great work that you do as a Jewish leader in Tehran, representing a community that is proud and that has been in existence for longer than we could possibly imagine. HaKadosh Baruch Hu should give you strength, Arash, to continue your great work. And we look to you for inspiration and for guidance. Thank you so much for joining us. A happy Shushan Purim. And we continue to wish you great, great success, both personally, for your family, and for your community. I want to thank everybody for joining us. You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I want to thank Rabbi Glasser, Rabbi Winston for arranging for the possibility of this discussion. I wish everybody a happy Shushan Purim. As we're getting closer to Pesach, I wish everybody just joy and happiness and Simchat Yom Tov. Bye-bye, and thank you for joining us.
And thank you, Rabbi Schacter. Thank you, Arash. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us. And we look forward to many more opportunities to convene the Yeshiva University community for such meaningful experiences together in the future. Have a wonderful day.